Welcome to another episode of SaaS Growth Academy. I have the pleasure of speaking with Pete Caputa today, the CEO at Databox, which is the business analytics software for everyone. Back in the days, we started collaborating with your content team, and I keep on sending your articles as examples of outstanding content marketing. So great job there.
I will.
Yeah,
The team will
welcome,
be
Pete.
happy to hear that.
Yeah, we're super thrilled to have you, and we can't wait to learn from your exciting journey.
Thanks, Olga. It's nice to be here. I look forward to chat. I think we've been following each other for a while here on LinkedIn, and I always enjoy your writings and your insights and the work you do as well. So
Definitely. Thanks a lot. So, Pete, in one sentence, what does your product do? Or what does it mean, the business analytics software for everyone?
Yeah, so it helps companies pull together performance data from all the different tools that they use, so that they can have one centralized place to monitor their performance, set and track goals, report out performance to internal stakeholders or external stakeholders, and then analyze that performance so that they can ultimately spend more time improving performance instead of figuring out what their actual performance is, and all that.
And your best customer would be, is it like agencies or is it someone else?
Yeah, 40% of our customers are marketing agencies who use us to report results to clients, as well as help their clients improve performance overall. Since we have integrations not just with marketing tools, but also sales tools, finance tools, we can integrate data from spreadsheets and databases. It's a tool that agencies can take into their client and say, hey, let's get a better handle on your whole company's performance. And that way we'll be able to see the true impact of the marketing work that we do.
Got it. Pete, could you tell us just a little bit about how did you end up at Databox? Because you mentioned quite an exciting story before. Could you please tell us again, how did you go from HubSpot to Databox?
Yeah, so I was fortunate to meet the HubSpot early team very early on, and I ended up joining as the 15th employee at HubSpot. And then I spent 9 years there. I was really early, and I had an opportunity to be entrepreneurial within the company, and ended up starting and then scaling up the HubSpot marketing agency partner program, now called the Solutions Partner Program. But I scaled it up to a few hundred internal teams members, a few thousand partners, and more than $115 million of ARR for HubSpot. So it was a great experience. Obviously learned a lot from the people there, but also really a great entry on my resume. When I decided I wanted to move on from HubSpot and be an entrepreneur again, I started meeting with VC firms, and one of the because I was going to start another business. It had been my second one. I started one earlier, and I met with a partner at a VC firm who was an investor in Databox, and he said, "Hey, love what you're thinking. I think it's really kind of interesting and aligned with something Databox is doing, and they're actually looking for a CEO, and so it might make sense for you to meet with the founder and see if it makes sense for you to work together." And I was like, "No, I really want to start my own thing. I have my own vision for what I want to build, but I'll sit down with them if I can provide some advice or whatever. Happy to point him in the right direction." And so I ended up meeting with him, and 6 months later, I ended up joining Databox as CEO, and that was 6 years.
That's inspiring. I noticed that you guys are really heavy into community marketing, right? Like you have collaborations with every SaaS out there. Can you tell me more, like what brought you there? Like why this particular marketing channel, and how does it work out for you?
Yeah. So before I left HubSpot, I actually spent a year helping to launch the HubSpot sales blog. So I wrote like 42 really long form articles about all kinds of sales related topics. Because at the time,
That's what I was reading, huh? On HubSpot.
Yeah.
Those are all yours.
Oh, yes. Not all, but a lot of them. If you're reading the HubSpot sales blog, you probably run into one of my old articles. And towards the end of that, I kind of like ran out of things to write about from my own head. And so what I started to do is reaching out to other sales authors, sales book authors, sales consultants, sales coaches that I know, and just started interviewing them and started asking them questions about that related to the topics I was going to write about. And then I
Uh-huh.
started using their quotes and weaving that into that content. And I realized that it was just better content because it was multiple perspective experience from multiple people. Sometimes I'd even gather some data and be able to make a point with a statistic. And so when I joined Databox, we had a relatively small budget. The company had raised money before, gone to market, and then just kind of didn't work. So we couldn't go out and raise more money. We had a limited budget to work with, and I knew that we needed to market pretty aggressively via content marketing.
Yeah.
And so we kind of applied the same process and just said, all right, well, we're not experts really at Facebook ads, but we could probably go find 100 experts on Facebook ads and ask
Uh-huh.
them a set of questions and then take their answers and weave that into an article.
Yeah.
Later on, we ended up doing a survey on like how to improve your Facebook ads performance with like 50 questions and got 300 respondents and published, an article. If you Google Facebook ads performance benchmarks, you'll run into our research report. So over time, we got really good at kind of crowdsourcing that insights as well as data that we could then publish in order to, rank and, be the kind of content that companies like yours
Yeah.
we share and reference.
Yeah, definitely. I see data box questions in my email inbox, on the social media, on Hero, helper
Yes,
photo
help
ad
a
is like,
reporter out. Yeah.
yeah, it's also some extra exposure, that you get this way, I guess.
Yes.
So that's how I guess you guys got famous too, because everyone knows data box these days, because you are so often on Hero.
Yes.
Would
Yeah.
you
I
say?
think Harrow has definitely been um, a, a benefit to us. I think we're actually kicked off of it right now because we
No.
we collect quotes through Harrow and we use it just like you're supposed to use it. But then we also run surveys, and somebody who received our survey basically reported us to Harrow saying, "Hey, they're running surveys, and running surveys is against Harrow's terms." So we got kicked out. But
Oh,
we really do use Harrow correctly. It's just that this guy decided to, make
yeah,
embellish.
yeah,
So
that
anyway,
happens.
so yeah, Harrow is helpful. Like if you're crowdsourcing quotes for on articles, you should totally use Harrow. What we do more now of is run surveys. We've built up our own list of respondents over time, right? We've had more than 10,000 people contribute to content that we've written and
Yeah.
surveys that we run. So now we do more surveys. We also partner with other organizations. We have, I think, more than 50 surveys that we're doing in partnership with other organizations, consultants, marketing agencies, some other SaaS companies. And so working together, we recruit respondents that way. So we're not dependent on Harrow these days, but it certainly helped us in the beginning.
Yeah, right. Because with Hiro, it can be not so easy. At times, a lot of people are actually looking for backlinks. From
Yes.
my experience, all they're looking for is get me a backlink. I'll write whatever needed to be written. Like I'll
Yeah.
use ChatGPT and just give me a backlink.
Yeah,
Right?
no, I think Harrow gets abused by people whose job it is to do link building. They don't
Yeah.
truly have expertise in the topic, but then they'll go Google something, or now they'll use ChatGPT, and then they'll enter that into your form
Yeah.
as an expert quote, but they really don't have any personal expertise in the topic. And so we've even had people, for some reason, use other people's names to submit quotes through Harrow, and then that person found out, hey, that's not, I didn't give you that quote, and they make us take it down. So like, yeah, Harrow doesn't have that like connection. We try to,
Yeah.
when we're reaching out to experts, it's often one-on-one,
Yeah.
and we're making sure that they actually have expertise before we do it. So I think that's important.
So when you're reaching out to experts these days, is it on LinkedIn? Is it somewhere else? Any other platforms you're using?
Mostly LinkedIn.
Mhm.
We build lists also and use email as well.
Mhm.
But mostly LinkedIn. The process we follow now is we use actually LinkedIn to kind of test topics to determine, do we want to write more about that topic? So we'll write something on LinkedIn first. For example, I wrote an article the other day, like it took me 20 minutes. It wasn't even that big a deal. It was like the question I posed was, are fractional CMOs disrupting the agency business model? And I think it currently has like 180 plus comments. So clearly that question
Yeah, I remember that
evoked
one.
the response. And so now we're going to turn that into a longer form article, and we'll pull both from the quotes that comments that people left, but we'll also reach out to those people that left a comment and ask them to take the longer survey. And so that's the process that we both follow. And then some of our partners follow the same process as well. But yeah, I find LinkedIn a really great testing ground for content that people will be interested in reading.
Definitely. Would you say that content generally is your number one marketing channel these days?
Yes, absolutely. So content, the broader content, yes, absolutely. I would say that it certainly drives our search engine optimization, which is a huge driver for our business, the number one channel for us. But of course, it also drives our social strategy. It also drives a co-marketing strategy. And then we also have podcast and newsletter. And so all of those things are kind of connected. We actually kind of have a process where we start with a short form article, say on LinkedIn, get comments, turn that into a survey, find some really high level experts, maybe interview them on the podcast related to that topic, and then run the survey, do the analysis, publish the podcast, and then put all of that related content in one episode or issue of a newsletter. And so it kind of like builds on it. And so we're, getting people by email, getting people on social engaged, people that prefer podcasts, let's do it. People that want to see data and read the report, or people that maybe search for the topic will all find the article. So we try to like do these multi-channel campaigns in this stepwise fashion.
No, that's amazing. And basically, Pete, after you've joined Databox, you've pretty much taken it from zero, well, close to zero, to 3K customers, right? Which is
so we have just under 3,000 customers. When I joined, there was maybe 15 customers, some of which I referred before I joined, but they did do the work to get a product out there that was received well, that got some early customers. And I kind of was testing them during that 6-month period to see could they iterate on the product and based on some customer feedback. So that was part of my vetting process. So it wasn't at zero when I joined officially, but yes, it's been pretty close to zero.
Yeah, I mean, still, it's fascinating. And like when you got from, let's say, those 15 customers to your first 100, like, I know that the first year, the first customers are the hardest. So what was the biggest challenge back then?
So they had launched a freemium model back before right before I joined. That was a big pivot, of course, away from like an enterprise sales motion. And so they had the infrastructure built around that. When I joined, the first thing I did is made the free product a little more generous. It was too restrictive to really generate any demand and usage. And so that was the first thing. Because we didn't have much of a budget, I did the sales, marketing, and onboarding. I had one person in customer support to help with questions and that might stump me. He's literally sat next to the product and engineering team, so that like he had access to them for help. But yeah, for the first few months, I started with like, I'm going to write content related to what we do. I'm going to use that content and send that off to people who I know or who may know me or who I can get an introduction to. Even back then, I used LinkedIn a bit to network. I also had a group of marketing agency owners that I still to this day meet with every Friday. And so they were some of our early customers, gave us a lot of feedback. Like I consider them friends at this point. And that was how we kind of got those first. Then as I started writing content, we did get a little traction with search engine optimization, some word of mouth. And so it was enough to build a funnel. And then I hired 2 people, relatively junior people at the time, one to help with marketing, one to help with onboarding. I continued to do the sales for a while. That was probably the first year. We might have gotten maybe 100 customers or something. And then ended up hiring a salesperson and investing more in marketing. And, now we're 100 or so people.
And what would you say the biggest challenge is right now when you are at the point of 3K customers?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest challenge is what worked yesterday doesn't work doesn't always work today or tomorrow. We grew relatively fast for the first 4 or 5 years, and our growth rate has slowed. And I think it's largely because we while we constantly improved and added features to our product, I don't think we really changed the game in a way. And also in the same time, a lot of competitors kind of came on the market. Not always direct competitors. We're still better in certain ways, but different ways of accomplishing what our product allows. And so now, like about a year and a half ago, we realized, all right, well, we need to take it to the next level. We need to figure out what's next from a product perspective, from a marketing perspective. And that's kind of required us to almost be a startup again, which is a lot harder when you have 100 plus people. So yeah, we're kind of, we have a solid business. We're break even cash flow wise, so we're not burning. And so we have time, but we're impatient and we want to grow faster. And so it's a lot. There's a lot of innovation going right now internally, and has been going on around product features and capabilities, as well as our marketing and sales processes and everything. So yeah, it's always in flux.
What about your marketing plans for the upcoming future? Is it going to be the same road, or you're going to be changing, just like you mentioned right now, being a new startup again?
Yeah. So up till now, it's the channel that really drove our business was SEO, at least as far as our Google Analytics shows.
Definitely.
But when we started doing more demand creation things like social media publishing, podcast, newsletter, etc., we started asking our prospects how they heard about us when they book a call with our sales team. And what we discovered is that way more of our customers come from word of mouth, whether it's from a previous customer, a partner of ours, an integration that we have, or them hearing about us or our content through through social, or what some people call dark social, right? And so about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, we started leaning into that through a co-marketing program that we built, which allows our partners to leverage our software and our marketing reach to promote their own services and capabilities. So, for example, we have a sales coach named Carol Mahoney who is using a free product we provide called Benchmark Groups that allows her to benchmark the sales performance of small businesses where the owner of the business is the primary salesperson. And so she's able to use our software and just invite companies that meet her criteria to connect their CRM data. And it takes those people like 1 minute to do that. And then they instantly see how they compare to the other people in the group. And so for Carol, the sales coach, it's a great way for her to show that she knows how other companies that meet that criteria should be performing. And also a great sales offer for her to say, you're underperforming here and overperforming here, right? Like you're underperforming in your sales calls volume, right? Or you're underperforming in your sales close rate. Like she can tell them that compared to other companies just like that. So we built this tool. We also, it also integrates with SurveyMonkey. So we can also work with her to create surveys where we're also asking those same companies questions about how they're running their sales process. And so together with the performance data and the survey data, it gives her a lot of intelligence to be able to go to a company in her target market and say, this is the things you should be doing, and this is the kind of performance that you should expect from it. And so now we crossed about 50 partners doing that. Every partner is a little unique. So we have a partner who only works with enterprise HubSpot customers. We have a partner that only works with BigCommerce customers. We have a partner that only works with mental and behavioral health clinics in the US. And so they're able to build these benchmarks that really allow them to show off their expertise and both market their expertise, convert and generate a lead, as well as use the data in their sales process and with clients to advise them on best practices. So we're leaning into that. We leverage our channels to promote what our partners are doing. So we're leveraging LinkedIn, we're leveraging our podcast, leveraging our newsletter, our blog, et cetera, to really help elevate what they're doing. And when they get somebody to respond to their survey, or when they get somebody to join their benchmark group, it's also a lead for us, which helps us build the top of our funnel. We're also together building the largest ever live business benchmarking study, right? Like we have tens of thousands of companies already opted in, and we have benchmarks available from 70 different tools, like all the Google products, all the HubSpot products, all the Facebook products, et cetera. And so we already have amassed together, by working together, this amazing data set that we all can use to advise, our customers and clients on best practices.
I think very soon you're going to have one more partner, which is our agency. No, I'm serious.
We would love to work with
one
you,
of your teammates actually reached out to me, and we are in the process of discussing this partnership.
So awesome. Cool.
And the very first thought that I had was, wow, what a great idea. And
thank you.
I'm sure that was yours.
I've had this idea, a related idea, since for like 15 years. I had sketched out on a napkin, and it's actually when I met the founder of Databox, I said, this is what I want to build. I know we won't get there right away, and I know that we have to get this business moving in the right direction, but I was very upfront with, like, this is what I want to build someday. It also includes a lot of input from the team and feedback from partners and customers, and it's really evolved and gone to the next level. We have a whole data science team on the back end that's helping us to architect the system and figure out how to analyze data in a programmatic way. And so there's a whole team behind it. And it's a lot of fun.
Of course. So Pete, if you were to start all over again, let's say 6 years from now, 6 years ago, is there something that you would do differently, or you'd pretty much do the same thing?
Yeah, no, I definitely do a bunch of things differently. If I said no, that means I have a blind spot around my mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes. I think I would have probably had more conviction in the fact that product innovation is really the only way to grow a SaaS business these days. I think marketing and sales are critical, and that's my background, so obviously it's important. But when you look at the SaaS companies that are growing fast, that are public, like, they all have multiple products, they're all in multiple markets, they're all serve multiple functions within an organization, and the way they got there was through product innovation. And so I probably would have had more conviction on just saying no to growing the people side, the customer success sales side of the business, and investing more in product. The hard part about that is that, when you see that you've got a model working, investing in adding a BDR, adding a CS person, adding an account manager, et cetera, like, the math is easy to justify. But with product, it's the opposite. It's like you have to spend a bunch of time in R&D, do mock-ups, get feedback, launch something before you really see whether it's actually going to help, you're going to be received well, used, and people are going to pay for it. So I think, but that would be the one thing that I'd probably go back to.
Absolutely. And just for the folks that are listening to us right now, the SaaS founders that are getting started, is there any advice that you would give to them? Like, what should they do in order to start a successful SaaS these days, this year?
So there was some advice we always gave at HubSpot, which was, like, start a blog before you start a business. Dharmesh Shah, who's a co-founder of Databox or HubSpot, co-founder of HubSpot, always used to say that. We used to repeat that all the time to prospects and customers. And I think that was true, like, back then. Today, I wouldn't say that. I would say start publishing on LinkedIn, or start recording YouTube videos, and or start a newsletter, and write it from yourself, not like your own thoughts, not your company's voice.
For sure.
I don't know if you've ever read the Clue Train Manifesto. It was published in 2001. I highly recommend. A friend of mine pointed it out to me the other day that I sounded like the Clue Train Manifesto, but it's all about how in 2001, so this was somewhat prescient, in 2001, these authors looked at what was happening on the internet and basically said that the company structure will be different in the future. And really what will happen is business will happen through human networks, where individuals within companies or individuals acting on their own accord will be how business gets done. And I think we're truly there. It's not always, it's not visible, I think, to people, but the way that business gets done, the way that people choose products, the way that people learn about things is from other individuals online. It's rarely through companies these days. And I think that would be my advice. If you're going to start a startup, pick a problem, start writing about it, start doing research about it, start talking to people about it, and start almost diarying or journaling. Diarying is probably not the right way to say it. Journaling what you're learning as you're learning it. Share the stories of your revelations. Share the stories you're hearing from other people that are relevant, and just build your connections that way. And that's where your customers will come from. That's where your raving fans will come from. That's where your partners will come from. And those will be the people that behind the scenes and publicly will be the ones that get you your first 100,000, maybe 10,000 customers. And I don't think you can brute force your way to market anymore through SEO or paid ads. It's just too competitive everywhere. You got to do it through human connection.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think that, building the LinkedIn presence for a company is gotten super difficult. It's much easier to build self-brand and share your, unique, authentic thoughts, rather than, actually, I was trying to build that for a company because, someone told me that, well, you don't want your company to rely only on your voice, right? Like one day maybe you'd like to sell it.
Yes,
and
of
then
course. Good advice.
what's it going to be? It's not going to be worth that much if it relies on your self brand.
Yes.
But
yeah, I think over time, yes, it can't be like, it's called Databox, not Caputa.com for a reason, right? Like there's equity in the brand. We've invested obviously in search channels and conversion processes and teams, product, all that. So you need to build that brand. But I think as far as evangelizing that company, it's best done through actual people to other people. And that I always look at LinkedIn as like a two-step process, similar to the way you convert on your website. Your personal profile is where you're building your audience and engaging people, just like maybe your blog content would bring in search traffic. And then the company page is there to represent the company and get people to ultimately convert and be interested in your products.
So do you post on LinkedIn every day these days?
Not every day. Sorry, I'm losing my voice here.
No, it's okay.
But not every day.
Don't worry. So what is the future of LinkedIn, you think? Because I noticed that everyone and their dog starting, posting on LinkedIn, and there's just so many LinkedIn posts and polls and carousels and just everything, right? How do you compete with all that content on LinkedIn these days?
Yeah, I think that people make the mistake of thinking that they have to sound smart and be the expert all the time. I think if you walked into a room and just started talking at people all the time about how awesome you were and all the cool things you did, everybody would go somewhere else, right? They'd all be like, I'm not listening to that guy. And we've been to networking events where somebody just gabs and gabs and gabs, right? So that's that. But ironically, that's what everybody does on social. It's like they just sit down and like, I got to tell everybody how awesome I am, what I did yesterday, what my company accomplished. It's, similar to Instagram where you go on there and everybody looks like they're beautiful and rich, right? And so where we all feel inferior. LinkedIn is similar, but what's different about LinkedIn is that you're actually connected to people. And so you got to spend time actually supporting other people, reading what they write and asking questions or sharing your perspective or disagreeing if it makes sense, respectfully, of course, right? You got to do that. You got to connect with people on there. It's like amazing. It's like going to a networking event, like you're going to reach your hand out and shake people's hands. So you got to do that on LinkedIn. You leave them a nice comment, send them a quick little message saying, I appreciate what you're doing. Let's connect, right? So you got to do those other activities, reading, commenting, connecting. before you start thinking about what am I going to write and who's going to respond, how am I going to get a lead. And then once you start writing, you have to write it in an engaging way. It's got to be things you learned. It's got to be opinions you have. It's got to be other people's stories. Some of my best posts are a result of me interviewing someone and writing up their story. People, especially if that's the type of company I'm targeting, if I write their story, other people like them are going to want to hear that story. They're not going to want to hear my story as a SaaS company. They want it because we often sell to marketing agencies, right? And so if I tell the story of a marketing agency, that's going to resonate a lot better with them. So it's not just about you. It's got to be engaging. And one thing I do a lot is just ask questions, share opinions and ask a question. Like that's what gets people engaged. And then the next step is that you got to actually follow up with people who engage with your content. You have to say, hey, thanks for the comment, or hey, I agree with your comment, or hey, loved your comment. I checked out your company. Looks like you're doing cool stuff, right? Or hey, I really liked what you said in my comment thread there. I'd love to interview you on my podcast or have you contribute to my article, right? So now we're full circle. And that's how you build a community, right, of people, is you actually have engagement with them one-on-one. And so that if the people that do that will always be successful on LinkedIn, no matter how much crap or braggadocious stuff. I've even started seeing people posting, muscle shots and bikini shots on LinkedIn. I'm like, really? We got to do that here too? So anyways, but I think that good engagement, focusing in on the engagement and not just the content, is the important thing. If you do that, you'll be successful. It's the same stuff that good salespeople did before the internet existed. They showed interest in other people. They asked questions. They were curious. They really want to learn. They want to build relationships. They want to figure out how to help people. And if you do all that on LinkedIn, you'll do fine.
Can't agree more with you, Pete. And I just want to thank you for sharing your insights, and that's been super valuable, super interesting. I really hope that our SaaS founders will find it inspiring. I think a lot of things that you're doing are very different, from other, SaaS people approaches, because this is different and this is unique, I would say. And that's why it's super interesting to hear. And guys, if you're listening to this now, remember to stay tuned for more empowering interviews with SaaS Growth Academy guests. Until next time, and keep dreaming big.